Welcome to the Love Lab Podcast, the place to be for honest and real talk about relationships and sex. Whether you're a man or woman, single or a couple, this is the show for you. I am your host, Kevin Anthony, and I am here to help you have the relationship of your dreams and the best sex of your life. All right, welcome back to the Love Lab Podcast. This is episode 346, and it is titled, How to Supercharge Your Life with the Power of Sexual Energy. I have not just had an opportunity to be with you, the audience, just you and I, in a while. I used to do a lot of shows, and Celine and I used to do a lot of shows that were just us talking about a particular topic. In the more recent years, there's been a lot more interviews, which, I appreciate. I love having different experts on to talk about things that they know about, that they're experts in, because I feel that you, the audience, learns from that, and I also learn from that. And at the same time, I do love to get back to just doing shows like we used to do back in the day, just me talking with you and sharing something that I think can improve your life. So that's what we are doing today. And we're going to be talking about this idea of sexual energy and what is it really? And how can we use it not only to better our relationship, better our sex life, but better all of the other areas of our life as well. We're going to talk about what can go wrong if it is not used correctly. We're going to talk about some of the conditions that you may be aware of that can be either created or exacerbated by the improper use of sexual energy. So it's going to be a really fun conversation. I'm excited to talk to you about this. So let's just dive right in. But first, a word from my sponsor. Power and Mastery 3.0. Power and Mastery 3.0 is the latest version of the popular men's sexual mastery course. If you are struggling with erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, or simply want to increase your skills in the bedroom, then Power and Mastery is for you. Join the exclusive club of men who have taken their sexual performance into their own hands and become sexual masters. Mastering your sexuality is a key component to becoming the man she has always dreamt of and craves. Don't leave your sexual performance up to chance or the throw of the dice. Become a sexual master today by going to powerandmastery.com and joining the exclusive club of men who have taken their destiny into their own hands. That's powerandmastery.com. You hear me read that ad at the beginning of every episode. And in the Sexual Mastery course, we do talk about sexual energy and how to use it and how to become a master of it. So go check that out. Okay, so we're talking today about sexual energy. But the question often comes up, what exactly does that mean? So when we're talking about sexual energy, I want to be really clear and make the point that you will hear energy called a lot of different things. You'll hear it called universal energy. You'll hear it called chi, jing, prana, life force energy. But the term sexual energy is another term to describe what I call this sort of universal life energy that animates and flows through all of us. So it's not necessarily something that's separate. And that's a key point and something we're going to talk about a whole lot more throughout this episode. It's not separate. In other words, there isn't like my life force energy that I use at work or whatever, and then there's my sexual energy. Because sometimes people tend to compartmentalize it like that. And they'll say, well, yeah, I don't really have a lot of desire for sex and I don't really have a lot of sexual energy, but I've got all this energy for, this other stuff over here. And it's like, wait a minute, something's not right there. Either you don't have the energy that you say you have, or you have it, and for whatever reason, you're not utilizing it in your sex life or your relationship. So Because if you have it, I mean, there is, as I just said, really only one energy. So, to quote Napoleon Hill is the author that wrote the very famous book, Think and Grow Rich. He says, sex energy is the creative energy of all genii. There never has been and never will be a great leader, builder, or artist lacking in this divine force of sex. And so what he's saying basically is that's the creative energy of all genius, of everything that gets created in this world. Whether you're creating another human being, or you're creating a great building, or you're creating a great work of art, it's that same energy that is flowing through you that is being used to create whatever it is that you are creating. So hopefully that makes it a little bit more clear about what we're talking about when we're talking about sexual energy. So now let's just talk about what would be some of the benefits of cultivating this energy. I mean, if you didn't kind of figure that out already from talking about what it is, I'll just throw out a short list. A few reasons why you might want to consider cultivating this energy if you are not already doing so. Number one, obviously an increase in sexual desire/libido. If you are really cultivating this energy, there's no way to have a low libido. You just can't, because that energy is what gives you the libido. So that is an obvious benefit to really focusing on cultivating the energy. Next, more motivation for life in general. You know, I'm sure pretty much everybody listening to this can think of a point in their life where they were just on fire. Like life was happening, they were doing stuff, they felt energized. And if you really think about that, most likely that coincided with a time in your life when you were also very sexually active, or at least wanting to be sexually active. In other words, there was a lot of sexual energy flowing and moving through your body. So you'll notice that if you have taken the time to cultivate this energy, that you're just going to have more motivation and drive. You're going to want to get up out of bed in the morning. You're going to want to go to the gym. You're going to want to work on that business project that you've been saying that you want to work on. Whatever it is, there will definitely be more motivation for life. And similar to that is more drive to accomplish/create. So, I was saying you have more energy to get out of bed, more energy to go to the gym, more energy to build things, start that business project. But it could also be the energy to simply create something like, a painting or writing a song or some other work of art, or just, doing a freestyle dance, whatever it is. When you've cultivated that energy and it's moving and it's flowing through your body, you're just going to naturally want to do these things. And of course, increased happiness for a whole bunch of reasons. One, because that energy is just going to make you feel alive, right? But two, because you're going to have more desire and more libido, you're probably going to be having more sex, or at least more self-pleasuring sessions. You're going to be creating and accomplishing more in life, which means you're probably also going to be earning more money, which is the next one on the list. And all of those things will contribute to increased happiness. And of course, we know, because we've talked about it many times on this show, when you are having really good quality sex, it is stimulating the release of the feel-good hormones, which is just going to make you feel happier in general. And as I just mentioned, another potential benefit is you'll likely be earning more money because you're just going to be on fire. And you're going to be creating in life, and you're going to be doing things, and you're going to be showing up. Even if you just have a regular day job, suddenly you're going to be doing great in your day job, and eventually your boss is going to notice. You might end up getting a raise or a bonus, or getting considered for the promotion that you've been wanting, right? So there's so many reasons why cultivating that energy and learning how to move it through your body is so important, which of course brings me to the next really important point, which is when you have cultivated this energy, it is imperative that you learn how to move it in a healthy way. First, let me give you some examples of unhealthy ways, because it would be irresponsible of me to tell you that you should be cultivating this energy and all these amazing benefits that could happen in your life without telling you some of the potential pitfalls as well. Because there are some potential pitfalls. So here are some examples of unhealthy ways to move your sexual energy. One is excessive masturbation. So if there's just a compulsive, excessive masturbation, then you're probably not moving this energy in a healthy way. What's most likely happening is it's getting stuck down in your, first and second chakras, and it's not really moving. So you keep masturbating because you want to keep moving this energy, but it's still stuck there. You keep masturbating. Obviously, excessive masturbation can create other problems with your sex life. It can contribute to premature ejaculation. It can contribute to erectile dysfunction when you're with a partner. Often when people are stuck in excessive masturbation sort of scenarios, there's also excessive porn use in there, which can create other problems, like eventually lead to lack of libido with a partner, all kinds of other things. So that is an unhealthy way. Now, I'm not telling you, anybody that's listening, I am not telling you that masturbation is bad in any way. I'm telling you that excessive masturbation, especially in a way that doesn't actually move the sexual energy, is a problem. Okay, just want to make sure we're clear on that, because I know somebody's going to comment on YouTube about, I masturbate all the time and I move plenty of energy and there's nothing wrong with it and it's all great. It's right. It's often in the details how you do something. Okay, other examples of unhealthy ways to move sexual energy, womanizing or excessive hookups. So obviously womanizing, right, is just, going on the dating sites and just trying to have as many dates and have sex with as many different women as possible. But I also, I wrote excessive hookups, obviously, because, there's nothing wrong with going out on the dating sites and meeting people and, going out on dates and, if it feels right for both of you, having sex. But it's that just like excessive moving from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And also, I want to make the point that this isn't just about men. I said womanizing, which implies that it's just men trying to have sex with as many women as possible. These days, we see women doing the same thing. Maybe not as much, but we do see women doing the same thing, getting really wrapped up in the hookup culture and just, trying to, put another notch in the bedpost, crank up that body count. It's not a healthy expression of moving your sexual energy. Then, of course, we have the really, really bad and unhealthy ways like rape, forced sexual contact, any other sort of deviant sexual behavior like peeping toms or flashers or, anything like that. These are all examples of unhealthy ways that sexual energy can potentially be moved. Also, it may not necessarily seem like it. It may not be something that comes to your mind immediately when you're thinking about examples of unhealthy ways to move sexual energy, but drug and alcohol use, that's another way. When people are feeling this sexual energy and they don't know either what it is or what to do with it and they don't have an outlet, they will often use drugs and alcohol to sort of numb that. Another potential unhealthy way is fighting. You see a lot of young testosterone-fueled males getting drunk at bars and then starting fights because they have no other outlet for that energy that is flowing through them. So those are some ways, some unhealthy ways that this sexual energy can be moved. And so I really want to make the point that, yes, I absolutely think that you should be cultivating this energy and using this energy to make life amazing. And I just wanted to give you a word of caution about, what happens if you do it in an unhealthy way. You definitely don't want to do that. So avoid any unhealthy ways of cultivating and or moving your sexual energy, but do focus on cultivating the energy and using it in healthy expressions, which we will get to in a little bit. But before I do that, I always love to leave shows, on happy, positive vibes. So that's why I try to get the sort of negative, downer parts of any discussion out early. And that way we can kind of say what needs to be said and then move on and talk about the positive. So while we're still talking about, some of the negative sides to this topic, let's talk about what happens to your sexual performance if you can't learn to move your sexual energy. Because there are things that happen when it comes to your sexual performance that you may not realize are potentially associated with your inability to move sexual energy through your body. Okay, so what are they? Number one, premature ejaculation in men. I honestly cannot tell you how many times I have spoken to men who are premature ejaculators, and when they describe their experience, it is so clear what is going on in their physical body. In fact, this particular issue is kind of how I got into doing this work to begin with. I've told the story on this show and on many other shows because people always ask you when you go on somebody else's show, how did you end up being a sex and relationship coach, right? So you end up telling the story. I'm sure most of you have heard it before, but basically it was I was studying all of this stuff for my own personal use and benefit, and people started to notice and were starting to ask me to teach them how to do it. And what happened a lot was a lot of friends of mine, male friends of mine, as word started to get out, started asking me about their premature ejaculation problems. And so I would talk to them and I would see these common threads throughout their experiences. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. One of those common threads was this idea that they didn't know how to move the energy through their bodies. And, back at that time, this goes back many years, this is even before I had met Celine. Back in those days, I was studying a lot of different esoteric systems, and I was, big into some of the Eastern traditions and learning about chakras and things like that. And back then is actually when I got certified as a Tantra counselor, which you'll hear me say when I'm talking about my background. And Tantra is huge when it comes to cultivating sexual energy and moving sexual energy. And so I was thinking about it in those terms a lot back in those days. And I really did see that pattern in men. It was like they had all this energy, and when they would describe their experience and what they would feel in their genital areas, I could tell that they had generated a lot of sexual energy, but it was absolutely just stuck there, thereby exploding out into a premature ejaculation. And so simply by teaching them how to move that energy throughout their entire body and relieve the pressure down in their genital area, just that alone was enough to shift some of these men out of being stuck in premature ejaculation and getting to a point where they could last longer. There's a whole lot more to that if you take the Master Your Ejaculation course at powermastery.com. There's far more than just that, but that is a component of it. So that's one thing that can happen if you haven't learned how to move your sexual energy. Another one is, this one. I can't tell you how many times I have had to have this conversation. Men will say, if I don't ejaculate, I'll get blue balls. How many times have I had to try to correct the idea or the misunderstandings of what is called blue balls? All right, first of all, if you're not familiar, your balls don't turn blue. They don't. They don't turn blue. Even guys that are like, oh my God, I have such bad blue balls right now. Look at their balls. They're not blue. What they are feeling is a discomfort that can sometimes be like a dull aching sensation that isn't actually due to any real physical thing that's happening. Now, guys will tell you, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's because there's so much, semen in the, so much sperm buildup in the testicles that it just causes pain and you have to release it. Well, that's not necessarily true. Your body is a self-regulating mechanism, and if the sperm are too long in your testicles because you're not releasing them, your body will break them down, reabsorb them, create more, and keep the process going. It's perfectly fine like that. When you're younger, your body will even do things like nocturnal emissions, where it will just emit it on its own. So that's not really an issue. What's going on with blue balls is the fact that they have a buildup of energy there that is really stuck and not moving anywhere. And it's stuck right there in that first chakra region. And that is what is causing that sensation. It's a real sensation. Guys feel it. But I can tell you that when I finally figured out what was happening there, I've never experienced blue balls or the sensation of blue balls ever again for decades, even during periods of time where I was not having any sex at all. So yeah, that is one of the things. So you can have a buildup of that. That does create a physical discomfort, but that's simply a result of not moving your sexual energy. It has nothing to do with whether or not you actually ejaculate. Okay, some other things that can happen if you are not moving your sexual energy. For women, you might notice that you've had a long pattern of sexual partners of men who were premature ejaculators. And you might be thinking, what does my not moving sexual energy have to do with their ability to control their ejaculation? That is a great question, and I'm going to tell you. What can happen is, if you haven't learned how to move the sexual energy through your body as a woman, you can also have a similar problem to men who are premature ejaculators and have that energy stuck down there. But you'll have so much energy stuck around your genitals that when a man plugs in, right, when he penetrates you, it's like literally sticking his penis in an electrical socket. It can absolutely just short circuit his system and just send him over the edge super, super quickly. So ladies, if you are experiencing men who are prematurely ejaculating, one of the things that you can do is learn how to move the energy through your body. Let's say he's got a ton of energy that's emanating from him even, and it's coming towards you. You can take that energy in, if you so choose, of course, and then move it through the rest of your body, and thereby helping to dissipate all that energy that's stuck in that genital region. Here's another one for women if they haven't learned how to move their sexual energy. You end up always going for the quick, explosive clitoral orgasm. So this is something that I see women do a lot. There's multiple reasons for it. One of the reasons, of course, is because their men often can't last long enough for them to really just sit back and relax and naturally allow their orgasm to arise. So they're like, well, he's only going to last so long, so I got to hurry up to the races and try to get myself off to that clitoral orgasm, so at least I can have some, orgasm, some pleasure before he ejaculates. So that's one of the reasons. But the other reason is that, those explosive clitoral orgasms obviously feel good. And even in masturbation, self-pleasuring sessions, you'll see a lot of women just go straight for it. This is one of the problems with using vibrators all the time, aside from the fact that it can numb out your clitoris and, other potential issues there. But one of them is it just takes you straight to the explosive clitoral orgasm. You feel a big release of sexual energy, and then you're like, okay, I'm done, I'm out. And you never give yourself the chance or the opportunity to get to those deeper orgasms. Maybe a G-spot orgasm, maybe a cervical orgasm, maybe multiple orgasms, maybe rolling orgasms of different types, right? And so you kind of shortchange yourself in a sense that you could be experiencing more pleasure and deeper pleasure and bigger orgasms if you learn how to move that energy and circulate it through your body, and rather than just going straight for that early, quick clitoral orgasm. And you will hear women who've learned how to do this, and men as well, use the term whole body orgasm, where instead of feeling like the orgasm just originates in the genitals and feels good and a release in the genitals, you feel it through your entire body. It's like your whole body is just one giant vibrating orgasm. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty fucking amazing to me. If you've never experienced it before, I highly suggest that you do. Okay, one more on the list of what can happen if you don't move your sexual energy. The energy that gets built up can explode out in any one of the unhealthy forms that I talked about earlier. This is unfortunately one of the things that I believe leads to a lot of those unhealthy behaviors, which is not so much a lack of being able to generate the sexual energy, but that there is a ton of sexual energy and there isn't a healthy outlet for it, or at least they haven't learned a healthy outlet for that sexual energy. And so they keep repressing until eventually it explodes out in some really unhealthy and destructive way. So those are some of the things that can happen if you haven't learned how to move the sexual energy through your body. So we're going to pause for a moment. I'm going to take a break for the second sponsor. And then when we come back, I want to talk about ways that you can move the sexual energy, ways that you can channel that sexual energy for things in your relationship, in your sex life, but also in other areas of your life. So this is where it really starts to get good, where you really learn, like, how do I cultivate this and how do I use it for stuff, right? Okay. Are you a couple? Are your relationship and sex life where you want them to be? Are there changes you would like to make but just don't know how? Maybe you think there is nothing that can be done. If you're not 100% happy with where your relationship or sex life is, then get help today and change your life. Go to Kevin and I almost read the old link because it's still here in the notes. It's kevinanthonycoaching.com/couples and schedule a strategy call with me today so we can map out a strategy to get you where you want to be so you can have it all your way. That is kevinanthonycoaching.com/couples. One of the things that I love to work with couples on is exactly what we're talking about here today, how to cultivate this sexual energy and how to circulate it through your bodies. That is such a fun and amazing and powerful practice. So go check that out, kevinanthonycoaching.com/couples. Okay. So how do we cultivate sexual energy? Okay, there are a bunch of ways, actually. The first thing that I want to say is it's important to remove any blocks that may be blocking your sexual energy. So what kind of blocks am I talking about? Well, there might be trauma from being abused as a child or from past relationships, even as an adult. That have taught you to repress or hide your sexual energy. So you want to work on clearing those and moving those out because those can absolutely be a block. And I will say that when working with coaching clients, both men and women, that when I'm working with somebody who's having difficulty with libido issues or sexual performance or whatever it is, and we start to really get beneath the surface and dig down a little deeper, we often, not always, but we often find that there's some trauma that is preventing them from being able to really access that. So you want to work on healing any of those traumas that are preventing your sexual energy from moving. Okay, that's one way. Another thing to do is you got to get your physical body healthy. I talk about this all the time. And it's not just because I have a background as a personal trainer and in the health industry for quite a few years, actually, when I was younger. But because everything it all kind of starts with having a healthy foundation. So we are a physical body, but we're also spirit, soul, consciousness, whatever other word you want to call it. And both of those have to be really healthy in order for us to really function fully in life. So like you'll see people who their physical body might be malfunctioning and not working well, but their mind is still sharp, right? But they can't use their physical body. You'll see it the other way around too. Their physical body works fine, but there's something else going on there. We need both of those to be functioning at a high level if we really want to be maximizing our experience here on Earth. So you got to get healthy. If you want to be able to generate this energy efficiently and cleanly and circulate it through your body, you've also just got to get healthy. Eat right, exercise, sleep enough, drink enough water, all that stuff I talk about all the time on this show. Also, I talked about healing the trauma stuff already. So, there's getting the physical body, clean and optimized and functioning healthy. And then there's getting your mental, emotional bodies clean, functioning, healthy, and all that. Because that will help the energy generate and move more. And then there are lots of practices. Tantra has all kinds of practices, breathing exercises, meditation practices, where you focus on generating the energy, feeling that energy, and then moving it from one energy center in the body to another. And then you get to learn how to circulate it through your body. You can do practices like this with your partner as well, where you both sit down together. Sitting in the yap yum position is a great way to practice this. You can do this with penetration or without penetration, where you really sit down and focus on feeling that energy and moving it through your body. This episode isn't an entire episode specifically on how to generate it, but just know that there are ways to generate it. Like I said, start with the foundation of your body. If you're physically exhausted, if your body's not working right, that's going to be a major impediment to, generating the energy, feeling it, being able to move it. Same thing with your mental, emotional. If that's, in the way and there's trauma and there's blocks, that's going to be a problem. So clean those things up. And then do actual practices to cultivate it. Could be a meditation, could be a breathing practice, could be a sexual energy tantric practice with your partner. All of those things can help you cultivate the energy, build the energy, and teach you how to move it. So those are some ways that you can generate, cultivate, and move that energy. As I've said already in the show, if you really take this seriously and you start doing all of those things, you will notice you have more energy for everything in life. Everything. So it's well worth it. Now that you have that energy, and some of you were like, I had all this energy all the time. I didn't need to cultivate. I was just trying to figure out what to do with it, right? Either you had it all along or you focused on how to cultivate it and generate it. Then the question becomes, well, what do I do with it? How do I use it to either improve my relationship, have better sex, or maybe create something else in life, some other major goal in life that you have? So that's what we're going to talk about now. Let's start with how to use sexual energy to manifest whatever it is you want in life. How would one potentially do that? Okay, well, at the simplest level, you simply take that energy and you use it to create something else. So you ever have like really nervous energy? There's something going on in your life. Maybe you have a big job interview, or you're going to go out on a date, or there's something happening in your life where you're really nervous and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this energy? And so usually what people do is they're like, okay, I know. I'll go, fix this thing or tinker in the garage or go for a run or blah, 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 right? You literally take that energy and you use it for something else as a way to sort of calm that energy down. I'm using that as an example because it's very similar to what you would do if you wanted to use this sexual energy that you've cultivated to create something in life. So at a simple level, it's like I have all this energy and I have this desire to just fuck, right? Now, I can fuck a person or I can fuck life. Right? So you can take that energy and say, I'm going to take all this energy I have coursing through me right now, and I'm going to use it to write that business proposal or to create that work of art that I've always wanted to create. So you can literally, that's just the simple way. It's just like, I've got all this energy, let me use it for something else that's also constructive, that is building something, that is contributing to my world and maybe the world as a whole. If we want to take that a step further, there's the idea, this is something else that Napoleon Hill, who I quoted earlier, talks about in his book Think and Grow Rich, is this idea of transmutation. The basic definition of transmutation is to take something and turn it into something else. Interestingly enough, the alchemists of the old days, they used to tell the kings and queens that they were working on turning lead into gold because the kings and queens wouldn't fund them if they didn't think that they were going to somehow turn lead into gold and make the kings and queens richer. But that's not what they were up to. What they were really doing was more of a spiritual transmutation. So they were learning how to turn the difficulties of the human experience into gold per se, or enlightenment. That's what they were really working on. But the idea of transmutation is what I'm getting at here, which is, how do you turn sexual energy into something else? So Napoleon Hill talks about, a whole process in that book. Basically what it is the mind responds to the desire for sex. If you go into any of the New Age teachings about how do you manifest something, right? What do they always tell you? I don't care who it is you're listening to, whether it's Abraham or any of the other people out there talking about. What do they always say when it comes to manifesting? They say you have to feel the desire for the thing that you want in your body. That's what makes it real. So I think it was in the movie The Secret many, many years ago where they were talking about, oh, you want that new car. Well, imagine yourself sitting in that car, what it smells like, what the leather on the steering wheel feels like, how it shifts, what the engine sounds like. Feel the feelings, right? So I'm saying all of those things to help you understand what I want you to do with the sexual energy. So you've built this sexual energy, and now you're going to put that energy into this thing that it is that you want to create. So I've got all this energy moving through me. I'm going to take that energy, and then I'm going to imagine, the business that I've created and how many people are working for me and what my bank account balance is as a result of that, or, recognition in the field, or whatever it is. It's a way of cultivating the sexual energy through the practice of lovemaking, potentially, and then shifting it, transmuting it, if you will, into the other thing that you're trying to create. So that is a way that you can kind of sort of trick your brain into using energy that was generated via sexuality for something other than sexuality. It's very similar to techniques that we use in NLP. So in neuro-linguistic programming, we do things like that, where we conjure up a feeling or an energy of one thing, and then we shift it over to another thing. And it's one of those sort of mental hacks that helps our brain make that shift. So that is a way that you can do that. And you can do this with anything that you want to create. And, you can simply generate that energy and then, think about the thing that the business thing or the art thing or whatever it is that you want to create. But you can also create like a ceremony, if you will, like a conscious intention to create something. So for instance, with your partner, you could say, hey, we want to find a new place to live or buy a new house. Okay, let's write down a list of all the things that we would like in this new house. And then let's make love while holding that intention, right? So we can generate all that powerful sexual energy and put it towards that thing that we want to create. I have personally used this in my life, and I know lots of other people who have used this in their life to create amazing things. And, if you're not so much into the woo-woo, because today we're talking about a lot of stuff that's kind of esoteric, I get it. If you're not so much into that, I can tell you there isn't maybe a lot of science necessarily behind this part that I'm talking about now. However, I can tell you from personal experience of not just myself, but many, many other people, that it works. And even if we don't necessarily know why it works, right, we can observe the fact that it does work. So I suggest that you try this. Try, if there's something big in your life that you want to create, try cultivating this sexual energy, which you can do with a partner or you can do on your own. You can do it through a solo self-pleasuring session. You can do it through a breathwork session. You can combine breathwork, meditation, and self-pleasuring all to generate this energy, and then hold that intention and keep thinking about this thing that you want to create while feeling that amazing and beautiful energy, and see what you can create. Start with something small, something that you believe in your mind is actually easily attainable. And do this process and see, one, if you're able to, create the thing you wanted to create, how quickly and how well. And as you start to see these things actually being created, you'll start to become more and more excited about it, and you'll start to go for bigger and bigger things. So try that and see what you can create in this life. And if you have done this before, if you're listening to this show and you're like, oh yeah, I totally did that. My partner and I, we did that. Share it in the comments. I would love to hear your stories about how you have used sexual energy to create amazing things in your life. Okay. As we are getting down to the end of the show here, let's talk about how to use sexual energy in your relationship and for lovemaking. Because it's great to be able to manifest things in life. Doesn't everybody want to do that? Of course they do. And at the same time, we also want to create better relationships and have better sex with this energy as well. So let's talk about how to use sexual energy in your relationship and for lovemaking. Number one, you can express it a little bit all throughout each day. So you're feeling this energy and you want to share that energy. This is what I talk about all the time when I talk about creating that constant state of arousal. You can, grab your partner, hug them, kiss them, tell them how much you love and appreciate them, grab their butts, grab their boobs, whatever, of course, is acceptable in your relationship, grab their crotch, little things like that. I often teach that as a way to stoke the fire and to keep you at, a certain level on the arousal scale all the time, so you don't have to go from 0 to, being turned on enough for sex. But it's also a great way to cultivate that energy because you're keeping that energy going all the time. During lovemaking, don't allow the energy to get stuck in your lower chakras. Move it through your whole body. So, the first one was just basically about how to sort of supercharge your relationship, right? So expressing it a little bit every day. This is a way that you can improve your relationship. When you are doing those things on a regular basis, you will see that your partner responds really favorably, and you will notice that the quality of your relating gets better. The second one is to improve the quality of your lovemaking. So if you are moving that energy during the lovemaking practice with your partner, you're going to notice that sex feels a whole lot more pleasurable. You're feeling it throughout your whole body instead of just a localized area of your body. You're having multiple orgasms. Maybe you're having these rolling orgasms. You're having different kinds of orgasms. It's like you've moved so much energy that you left a big puddle of sweat on the bed, and you tried to get up afterwards and walk to the bathroom, and you were dizzy because you were like, whoa, we just moved a lot of energy, right? So you will notice that if you learn how to cultivate and move this sexual energy and use it in actual lovemaking as well, that you're going to have a really amazing supercharged experience. Another thing that you can do when using this energy during lovemaking is to see how high you can get it. In other words, when you're conscious of the fact that you're generating this energy, it's not just a race to the orgasm or the ejaculation, but it's like, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we could see how much energy we could generate? Like, how high naturally could we possibly get? How much energy could we build up before we release it? Which then, of course, if you do choose to release it, would lead to how big of an orgasm can you possibly have? That's a really fun game to play. It's like, let's see. Let's see what we can create. How high, how far can we take this? And I would be willing to bet that for most people, there's so much more room for pleasure and with just like new levels of ecstatic bliss in their lovemaking than they've ever experienced. Because some people will tell me, they're like, our sex is amazing. It's great. I'm super satisfied with it, which is great, of course, that they're satisfied with where it is. But when you hear them describe what their lovemaking is like, then you're like, it doesn't sound to me like you are really going as far as you could go. But the idea is they don't know what they don't know. Because they've never experienced anything more than that, they think that's as far as it can go. When the reality is that you can often take it a whole lot further. So that's something to be aware of as well. Like, play with it. See how high you can take this. You might be very pleasantly surprised. Some other ways that you can use this in your lovemaking, I talked about it earlier, which is circulating that energy through both of your bodies, right? And when you can get that energy flowing in like a circuit, is it powerful? That is something they teach in Taoist sexual practices called the microcosmic orbit, and it is really powerful and really amazing. And so that's another way to supercharge your sex life. By utilizing the sexual energy, which is learning how to generate it and then moving it through your body into your partner's body and then back into your body and get that circuit flowing. That is another amazing way to use this energy. Of course, you can ride the many orgasmic waves of bliss, right? And too many people approach sex from the point of view of we build energy up, we have an orgasm, then we're done. And what I say to you is that might be good for a quickie every once in a while, but what you really want to do is learn how to keep those energy waves moving and rolling, and you get to just ride them. It's like you're surfing wave after wave. It's like the wave that never ends, right? That's when you truly get into, absolutely amazing and a mind-blowing lovemaking. So I highly suggest you try that. And then, of course, you can choose to release this energy anytime that you want. And if you've really learned how to move the energy through your body and it's not all getting stuck down in your genitals and you're not just racing for the ejaculation or the quick explosive clitoral orgasm, then you can choose to release it when you want, and you can hit one of those high peaks and those rolling deep orgasms, and you can both choose to simultaneously orgasm. If you have never had a truly energetically powerful simultaneous orgasm with your partner, I have to say you really are missing out, because it is a mind-blowing experience that everybody should experience at some point. Now, not every time that you have sex is that going to happen, but you should be able to reach that at least from time to time, and it's amazing. So that's another way that you can really use that energy, because you've cultivated it, you're moving it, you've learned to control it, and then you get to choose when you release it. All right, and one last way for using sexual energy in relationship or for lovemaking is, yes, it can be used for relationship or lovemaking. This last one can also be used for generating anything else that you want to create in life, which is, I added at the end of the list here, is to use masturbation to generate it. Because some people may be saying, well, this all sounds great, Kevin, but I don't have a partner, so what am I going to do? Well, what you can do is you can use your masturbation practice as a way to cultivate the energy. If you shift the focus from, I'm just doing this for pleasure and I'm just doing this to get to ejaculation or clitoral orgasm, or any type of orgasm, because if you're a woman, you can have other kinds of orgasms through masturbation as well. But if you shift the focus from that to, how can I use this practice to generate energy, and then take that energy and go do something with it, that changes everything. So, you can generate that energy through masturbation, and then you can take that energy to your partner and show them appreciation and love and constant state of arousal stuff. You can take that energy to your partner and have amazing, mind-blowing sex with them. You can take that energy out into your creative expressions in your art or your business or whatever. So that is yet another way that you can generate that energy, then move it through your body, and then take it and go use it for something that is positive, something that creates, something that makes your world better, your partner's world better, or potentially the entire world better, at least in some way. So there you go. I titled this, How to Supercharge Your Life with the Power of Sexual Energy. I hope that this maybe at least piqued your interest, your curiosity on how you might be able to improve the quality of your life simply by learning how to cultivate sexual energy and move it through your body and then transmute it into whatever it is. Whether it's art, whether it's work, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your sex life, all of those things can be charged up, supercharged, if you will, and made better once you learn how to cultivate and move your sexual life force energy. All right, everybody, that's all the time I have for this episode, and I will see you next week. I hope you liked this episode of the Love Lab podcast. If you enjoy this show, subscribe, leave me a review, and share it with your friends. And for more free exclusive content, join me in the Passion Vault at kevinanthonycoaching.com/vault. That's kevinanthonycoaching.com/vault. Thanks for listening. And remember, as Celine used to say, you're amazing.